should we dive in? I've got some questions for you guys. Let's start talking about what you guys do.
Thanks for having us. We're real excited to be part of Echosec's Fireside Chat. This is a great partner and business resource for helping us do what we do. The Hetherington Group provides critical intelligence and investigative services for corporate clients and special occasions. We handle anything from open source intelligence, discrete investigations, cyber work, and anything with public records or public information location.
Fantastic. And who do you work with for the most part?
The majority of our clients come from the Fortune 50 companies, Fortune 100 companies. We spend a good deal partnering with the CSOs or corporate security officers, also the executive protection teams and the threat assessment teams of many of these companies, helping them understand risk intelligence and how that plays into their everyday structure. As they're on the ground protecting lives, property, and reputations, we are behind the scenes infusing intelligence information to them the entire time.
I'm always interested in these roles, what leads somebody to work in this industry, because it is such a niche and specialized space. And I think I've heard some of your stories, Cynthia, before, but Rachel, I haven't heard yours. What led you into working in kind of investigations, open source intelligence?
Sure, that would be the Regional Operations Intelligence Center. I did some work there. It's the Fusion Center for the New Jersey State Police. And I got to work there with not only law enforcement, but pretty much every government agency besides the CIA. And I was doing some analytical type work there. They were having me, do timelines and put together profiles on people. So that's where my initial interest came. And then I eventually found Cynthia and her company.
Awesome. Yeah, and Cynthia, I think you were a librarian, right? Previously? Yeah.
I still count myself a librarian.
Yeah, sorry, I'll catch myself there. Yeah, because I remember hearing snippets. I obviously had the pleasure of being at Osmosis last year, but I heard a snippet, and that was the first time I knew about your background as well and how you got into this, which I find fascinating.
And it was a crazy journey. This industry didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had investigators, since VIDOC decided to, charge for services. But the truth of it is, this industry didn't exist. But library science had professionals locating answers to questions. So before there was Google, before the internet came around, you came to your public library to handle most of your daily questions and queries. As the internet grew, I also grew with this industry, having supported local and state police doing their research queries. So it's one day I was handing out information for free, and the next day I had a business model wrapped around that. And that's why I kind of say I'm still a librarian. It's a calling, frankly, more than a career. But I just, in my library role, focus on intelligence and information that better serves very specific and unique clients. Sure. And then I train all the analysts that work with me in that same science.
Yeah. How would you find the industries? I mean, obviously, if you're pre-origins of this space, how do you find it's evolving right now? It's such a fast-moving space. In the few years that I've been involved, it's translated into such a different world.
I'm incredibly excited by the transition. Normally, as an old veteran in this field, you normally would feel intimidated by seeing a lot of young blood. But anyone at my age that's been doing this a long time who really represents this profession is really excited by the youth, the intelligence, and the companies that are servicing this industry. Mm-hmm. We have been doing this work the longhand way, the difficult and time-consuming way. Sure, we could sit back and say, we understand how this gets done, and to the point where we could go and testify in court as to the nuances of every bit and binary piece. But to get this work done in any rational way, I'm truly appreciative of the intelligence products and artificial intelligence, I honestly, I won't even say in the last 5 years, but I will say in the last year, have really stepped up and now it's becoming tools I actually have trust and value in. And I think that is really a game changer. But another way of me saying is like, welcome to the field. Thank you for coming.
That's great. And you use Echosec in your investigations and your training as well. Is that correct?
We use Echosec daily. We really take advantage of all the features that it has to offer, from the quick searches, being able to just narrow down, quickly search a particular platform, to the save searches with the alerts for social media listening and monitoring. And we also use Beacon for searching dark web and for data breaches. Echosec really stands out to me because of the sources that you're pulling from. So you do have Reddit, which is great, but you also have 4chan, you have VK, and some of those really special platforms that I would typically otherwise go to directly and be searching within. You have all of those, and very user-friendly to just very easily narrow down and get to content just from, say, Gab, and be able to view that with a certain term.
Mm-hmm. Something I've always appreciated about the feedback that you guys have given us is it becomes abundantly clear that you're collaborating and using multiple tools at the same time. And I'm so often working with maybe more entry-level users in this space that look for a silver bullet solution, and they just look for one tool to solve all their problems. But Rachel, some of the feedback that you've provided us, it's clear that you're pairing Echosec and Beacon with other tools to get even more value in this space.
We always use more than one source when it comes to public records or social media platforms. So
yeah, I mean, I'd be remiss to not bring up Osmosis then, because it wasn't until last fall that, and I'm fairly new to this space over the last 3-4 years. Going to the conference, I'm at conferences all year long, but at Osmosis, I was sitting there looking around thinking, this isn't a large conference, but the amount of like-minded individuals or the other vendors that we were sitting beside, you realize how big this space is and how many professional tools there are out there that can be used in collaboration to make your life easier. I mean, you've got to appreciate that an analyst's job is just getting easier and easier, or at least more efficient year over year right now. It was shocking. I had such a great time at the conference.
Rachel managed all the vendors. Maybe she could give you some insight on that.
yeah, we have so many vendors that come out to the conference every year. It always shocks me as well. And there are some people in the same space, but then some unique ones that stand out that, you know, you didn't even know software existed for that. And you're always still surprised, even working in this industry, to see what people can come up with still. And as Cynthia said, I think that's only going to continue to grow. And whatever analysts and investigators have issues with now, I think there's going to be a resolution for very soon down the road.
I feel, and I'm sure Rachel's in the same vein, if we had to do this without products like Echosec at our fingertips, we would not be efficient. Mm. And we would be, the difference, and maybe it's my view, maybe again, I'm older in the field and I've seen this over the course of the growth and development of not only the products, but the internet itself. There is intelligence and intelligence work, and then there's investigations. Mm-hmm. I made a clear distinction years ago that I didn't want to focus my business on investigations because I would much rather inform my client with intelligence of something coming their way, a problem, a concern, or a risk, before having to explain it in an investigation. Like if we look at the law enforcement model, much of the typical law enforcement, globally, law enforcement model is explaining something that occurred, documenting it and getting it ready for court or prosecution. Intelligence agencies are trying to stop that problem. And I thought, well, that's much more effective. If I could train my analysts to be predictive, to use critical thinking, and to adapt with resources like Echosec and other fabulous products in the field, then we can, you know, we don't need to have our stuff show up on the front page of a newspaper. We can make sure that our clients are mitigating problems before they ever occur, stopping an employee from self-harm or harming the company. Intelligence oftentimes for companies is seen as like the people who follow weather alerts for business travelers. And that's great and that's necessary, but you know the weather's very unpredictable. Using this type of intelligence is a heck of a lot more predictable than using that type of intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you, knowing that there is obviously layers and layers of confidentiality on top of the work that you do, but do you have any success stories, Hetherington Group investigation success stories that you find most memorable?
Rachel might have one that's coming to mind. We're both stunned.
I have plenty.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, something that we used Echosec for that was just a really great find was there was someone that said they were going to fly a drone over a CEO's residential address, and we were able to actually get in front of that, let our client know before that happened. It's pretty extreme. It's the kind of thing that we're out there listening for. Then it actually happened. We actually got in front of it. So that's definitely a success story.
Oh, you know what? We had the protest movement where the protesters were planning on visiting the CEO of their home address too. And they posted on a Facebook group, they said, we're going to go and visit this guy and complain about one of his business practices. So not only did we get in front of it, and we weren't going to prohibit it. I mean, we just informed. But I remember we got on videotape because they still kept filming their protest. They were starting to walk towards the driveway, which is private property. Mm-hmm. And then we saw the executive protection guy we work with every day walking up the driveway. And he met with them at the edge of the driveway, and he had a very calm conversation with them and let them speak and this is what we're angry about. And he said, and they had a letter, and he said, I will personally deliver this to the executive. And he said, guys, I want you to know this is private property, and this is as far as you can go with this, and I appreciate it. And it just dissolved. I mean, the problem dissolved. James,
true de-escalation.
Oh my God. I've heard cases where there was a marching band and the front doorstep, I remember a bus of kids unloaded in their school marching band on the front step of an executive because a building they rented in a foreign country 10 years earlier collapsed and killed all these poor, unfortunate souls there. But it was the only business name that this little protest group could figure out that was attached to the building.
Sure.
So they wanted $80 million in reparations for the family members. And the company called me the day after it happened and said, can you get the video down? And I'm like, gee, if I would have known 3 hours earlier, I could have had somebody preventing that.
Absolutely.
Again,
I think on both stories, it's the proactive monitoring and the proactive response that always makes for obviously the best success story, as opposed to a reactive something is happening and now we're responding to it real time. Those are, I mean, right across the board for all of our clients. I'm always the happiest to hear when you can stop a crime from happening as opposed to reacting to it, although both I'm sure have value.
So we've talked a little bit about Osmosis throughout this chat, but I really, Cynthia and Rachel, last week when we were talking, we talked about some exciting changes that are happening this year. And I'd love to take some time and just touch on that. I know James has been involved in the past in 2019 in attending the conference. And I'm just wondering if you can share a little bit about what's happening this year.
Thanks, Ariel. Osmosiscon.com is the website. So visit the site to get all the details for anyone interested. We are going with responsibility in respect to COVID and keeping everyone safe and sound. We're moving completely to an online venue, though this makes complete sense because we're a cyber community. So this will always be, even next year when we meet in person, we will have a cyber venue then as well to just set it up. So we're going to GlobalCast. Osmosiscon.com is going to be 14 hours of continuing education in the field of open source intelligence, gathering information using specialty products and understanding intelligence in the field of the internet. A lot of us go to conferences that are geared towards fraud, security, policing, compliance. This is strictly for, frankly, this is strictly for the Echosec user, the person who sits behind a computer 8 hours a day and runs intelligence queries, and then sums up reports and helps keeping other teams or legal parties informed the entire time. So we're going to have a very exciting layout. We just finished the agenda. It went live a couple hours ago. And we also, I'd like to mention, we're giving out awards for trailblazers, technology, or new systems operators, please everyone visit. You can nominate anybody that you feel fits one of the criteria. I want to make sure that we recognize a lot of the institutions or the individuals who have really argued the case for open source intelligence in their field, when their companies and their bosses are like, what the heck is that? I could give that to the secretary. She could research it on Google, and then I don't need your intelligence. We need to establish this field as a professional service. So this is just one step closer to that. And I know I have trailblazers out there that are doing it. So please visit and nominate yourself, or, nominate yourself. No one waves your flag if you don't wave it for yourself, or nominate your colleague.
Great. Yeah, Osmosis was one of those conferences where I'm usually at 10, 15 conferences a year. And if I'm exhibiting, I'm tired. I'll take, when there's a speaker session, I'll take 5 minutes to go get a coffee. I was in every single speaker session because every single one was relevant to the work that we do.
Awesome.
Pretty eye-opening to see the difference between a conference, like you said, focused solely on security, or maybe, retail loss prevention, which we do a lot of work in. But when it's focused on open source intelligence, you don't want to miss a single minute of it.
Yeah, what's real fun is that, and I started this conference because there was no conference like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I just threw it out there, and I had like 30 people said, yeah, I'll do that. And I'm like, okay, I'll prop up a venue. We'll get this. And the next thing I know, we have like 300 people coming. And I'm like, wow, this is a legitimate conference. And thanks to our operations officer here, he pretty much runs the whole show himself. Rachel and I picked the speakers. We got, somebody picks out what the cocktail's going to be, and then the show runs itself. And then from there, though, we realized we're bringing in the best of breed speakers globally. So, because open source intelligence, there are no borders. So we've had speakers coming in from South Africa, from London, from Canada, plenty coming up from the US. And this year coming in from Australia. So we get a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different talents, some very technical, some minor technical. It's all about research. It's all about open source. It's all about the internet.
It's exciting. I'll wait for my San Diego trip for 2021.
Put it now. We're going.
Yeah.
We are going.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciated taking this time with both of you, well, all three of you, because I haven't seen James in a little bit either, because we've been working from home. And I so appreciate learning more about the work that you do, and you taking the time to share.
Thank you, Ariel. It was a real pleasure to see James again, to also see you. It's our second or third little online meeting. I'm real excited to work with you guys, and I really look forward to our future.
Yeah, likewise. I'm looking forward to Osmosis.
Thank you both for having me. It was a pleasure.
Take care.